Hello and welcome to the Jurassic Park 3 Minutes, where we'll be discussing the second Jurassic Park sequel 1 minute at a time. I'm Brad.
And Dave.
And we're back after the holidays to jump straight back into Jurassic Park 3 with minute 20. Dave, how was your Christmas? Any Mattel or Jurassic themed goodies you got?
Definitely. Well, not Mattel. I did get the Chronicle, the mini breakout Rex from Think Geek. So that's currently hanging up there with my other T-Rex statues on top of my desk. But then I did use some of my Christmas money to get some of the Mattel stuff. I got the Bull T-Rex, the new Mattel Bull T-Rex, which the last time we discussed it, it was just a blurry picture. Turns out that blurry picture turned into a big, beautiful reality. I'm loving it. It's this beautiful olive green color. It has this perfect kind of striping. Like the basic Extreme Chomping T-Rex, it doesn't have any detailing on the tail, but I soon fixed that. I also added some of the brown and the scarring to the snout and added some more detailing to the face area.
Yeah, well, last time we seen that, as you said, it was a blur image, and we were talking about it being a good base for a customization of the male Rex, but it sounds like it's pretty good on its own without some minor touch-ups that you can do to it.
I definitely agree. I mean, everything I did to it was done with a Sharpie, so it's permanent, but I really didn't have to break out the paints and all that. Of course, I've seen a couple Instagram accounts doing that, such as Ted Brothers already repainted theirs.
Yeah, there's some good-looking customs coming out of it.
Yeah, there are, and it's a beautiful a beautiful canvas to work with. And it's beautiful on its own. It's got this color that is honestly, to me, very reminiscent of the Lost World hand puppets.
Yep.
And so I was called crazy when I first said that to everybody, and then I'm like, like in SpongeBob when he just keeps tearing down, showing all the diapers, like. And then I also picked up the battle-damaged albertosaur, which is a lot of fun. It's a great color. It's a great figure. The whole head is articulated, I think, on a ball joint. And then the mouth moves up and down. The legs have the regular Mattel leg articulation. The tail is a ball joint. The arms move like regular Mattel arms. And then it has this really cool new battle damage feature. It's not just the sliding. The skin doesn't just slide down to reveal bones and flesh, but the bones and flesh are there. The bones also slide up and move away, revealing the flesh, which is kind of like a real feel, kind of like squishy kind of rubber material.
Okay, yep. Nice. Well, that's especially with that's a big difference a couple of weeks makes, where we had Mattel revealing that in the news we're going to talk about tonight, but you've already got it in hand.
So yeah, I could definitely describe that. I mean, if we're going to discuss it here.
I folded and got the Lego Mansion set. It was at a reduced price here, and I was sort of still kicking myself for doing it because it's got some playability, but for the money, there's just not much to it. But got that and got a couple of the I'd say new Mattel figures, but nowhere near as new as what you've been picking up.
No, I'm actually surprised how quickly, obviously not on your end of the world, but in the United States at least, Mattel has really hit it hard with the distribution rates on this release, because guys I know I talk to who live in, say, New Jersey or the Pennsylvania or other places on the West Coast, and then I'm here in Chicago in the Midwest, we're all getting it on the same release days, So
yeah,
it's a very good sign for distribution.
Yeah, well, it's sort of choppy here. Like a lot of the Rivals stuff, Dino Rivals is here, like the Pachyrhinosaurus and all that are coming out here, but it's just a lot of the simpler stuff. Like again, that RV Matchbox car is not here anywhere in that way. Like I seen the Explorers once and got 2 of them and then never seen them again, and it's sort of frustrating. It's all going to online shopping and getting friends in America that can pick them up for me and post them over.
That's funny that you mentioned the RV set. Are you still in need of that? Because the last time I was in the Target, we had 5 of them.
we are going to talk after this. Well, because I've got a friend that's getting me one. And I'm just happy to have one because most of the original, like the Explorer and Jeep now, I've just got one to keep in its package, but I do need two to customise into the proper RV. So yeah, we'll talk.
Yeah, because I went to go get a friend of mine the Maisie figure. His Amazon pre-order of it just wasn't going through. So I shipped him the Maisie, and I had like a $10 gift card. So I topped it off with a couple of the Matchbox toys, which were on clearance. So I got the RV, the Jeep, and the tour vehicle all for like 70 cents each.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Yeah, by the time the Matchbox cars go on clearance here, it's Claire's Mercedes or the Unimog.
Oh, and I almost forgot, I did also get one more Christmas present that was Jurassic related. I got the Alan Grant Pop Funko.
Oh, nice.
So that's sitting up there on being kind of surrounded by T-Rexes.
Hope that flare works.
Yeah, he's holding his raptor, his fossil raptor claw.
Oh, the claw it is too.
Yeah, and I gotta say it's very well done. It's got very clean lines. The paint's all very clean. It looks like Alan Grant without a mouth.
Oh, very nice.
How would you classify it, Billy?
Well, it's a super predator.
Mm-hmm.
Suchomimus. Snout.
No, think bigger.
Baryonyx.
Not with that sail. Spinosaurus aegypticus.
I suppose that'll take us straight into some Mattel news too. You're talking earlier about that battle damaged albertosaur, and we also seen a repaint of the pteranodon as well that was coming. You've got the albertosaur, so it's been released or been announced and released in the time we've been away. No such luck. You haven't seen the pteranodon yet. I suppose it's going to be a later wave.
Yeah, I haven't seen that one yet. I also haven't seen the new Suchomimus, the brown one with the I think the tail whipping action. Mm-hmm. I did see the new Bite and Fight T-Rex, but I didn't have enough to buy it at the time. And when I went back to get it, it looks like Scalpers got there before me. So that's unfortunate.
Damn.
Yeah, but I have a feeling that one's going to be like the new. Is going to be the new. What was it? The Thrash and Throw. So it'll be around. I don't think I'm getting it.
Yeah, the Thrash and Throws just started going on clearance here, and I said to my wife yesterday, I said, next weekend I might have to come in, I think I might buy 7. Just so I can have 7 T-Rex. Even my son asks me why. That's stupid, Dad. But I suppose in one other figure it's only just been leaked in the last couple of days.
I wouldn't call it a leak because technically this comes from the Hong Kong Toy and Game Fair. So evidently the picture comes from an official release, just not officially released in the US yet.
Okay. Yep. But it is the long-rumoured new Indominus Rex.
Mm-hmm.
Which, just from the, it's only sort of a photo of the head looking down to the torso, and it seems to have that neck of the Thrash and Throw T-Rex, so maybe there's a bit of playability in it.
I'm assuming the neck has some kind of action feature, yeah. Possibly Thrash and Throw, because like you said, it does look like that.
Plus, it, like they said in a later release, that it's a new Legacy Alan Grant that's actually hanging out of it. It's Jaws as well, which I haven't got mine. Where is it? I get that side. I haven't checked my T-Rex to see how deep the mouth is. No,
this one, from what I've heard, is called the it's the it's like what did that guy call it? It was some. Oh, was that you?
Yeah, sorry, I'm just digging through my dinosaur box and they're making noises.
I thought it was one of mine, so I was checking my glasses. No, that's right. It's the Devour and Destroy Indominus, I believe.
Devour. I don't. If it is the same size as the Fresh and Throw, I doubt it'll be able to swallow the legacy humans. But
I imagine it'll definitely be bigger than the Thrash and Throw, just because the figure itself is bigger. And we do know that Mattel is into everything being in scale. Because, of course, the Mosasaur is huge, and that was to scale the rest of the Jurassic World line.
Yeah, well, I've just found me Fresh and Throw now, and it does have quite a bit of space behind like the top of the tongue, so the Alan Grant that we're seeing in the picture, oh, shut up you, is like his full torso is inside the mouth, so...
Yeah. So yeah, this information is coming from a website / social media account called Collect Jurassic. They're new on the scene, and I've made my point of introducing myself. And it turns out they are in my area. They are local to the Chicago area, and so I've been comparing a lot of my finds with it.
Oh, why don't they have an off switch?
All right, I removed.
Well, that's all right. That's handy if they're close to you like that.
Yeah,
It'd
it
be
is.
Good to make contact.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I removed the batteries in my Thrash. So I just got sick of hearing it doing that.
Yeah, well, I just picked up the my Hasbro Indominus Rex, and we'll talk them before the show. Apart from the fact that it can't really stand that well, I still do like this figure. I haven't had the neck rubber perish, and it's been maybe son's toy box, so it has been played with. Whether that's just the humidity conditions or whatever else here, where it hasn't perished as much as what we've seen other people's do, but for the most part, like the sculpt and all that, I don't mind on it, and this new one looks pretty good as well, and if it can stand properly beside the Tyrannosaur, then you can get some good poses from that final battle with a little blue on the back.
Now, I am hearing that the photo here of the Indominus is actually a prototype, but that still doesn't stop the fans from, like, hoping it, like, wanting it right now.
Yeah.
They came out with a meme about it where what's his name, is up there. So saying now the Indominus is a prototype. And then they got the guy saying 25 millions. The Russian guy from Fallen Kingdom says that.
Yeah. We shouldn't have to, with the way they're releasing them, we shouldn't have to wait too long. You might have it by Valentine's Day or Easter.
I have heard that the proposed release should be around springish. So yeah, that does sound right.
Oh, lovely. I'm sure the photo of it's been rapidly getting posted around social media, so if need be, we can post a photo up on the
along with
the group as well.
Yeah, along with the screen cap we hear of the description.
Yeah, yep.
Cooper, if you see anything, yell up!
No, I thought I'd keep it to myself.
Anything else on that you want to discuss before we get into today's minute?
No, I think we're good.
Alright. As we entered minute 19 of Jurassic Park 3, Alan had woke to the sounds of jungle wildlife coming into the plane. He looks up at Billy and asks, "Tell me we didn't land." As we open on minute 20, the sounds of Amanda Kirby yelling through a bullhorn can be heard in the plane as she's yelling out to Ben and Eric. Billy tells Grant he thinks they're looking for someone. At the 10-second mark, we cut outside the plane as Udesky is helping Cooper and Nash and gear up before they run off into the jungle. Amanda can still be heard on the bullhorn yelling Ben and Eric's name. Grant and Billy come out of the plane. Alan asks Mr. Kirby who hit him. Paul points to Cooper running into the jungle, saying, "Oh, that was Cooper." At the 31-second mark, Grant tells Paul to tell his wife to stop making that noise, that it's a very bad idea. Amanda points the bullhorn back at the group and calls through it, "What's a bad idea?" just as a loud roar echoes from the jungle. At the 54-second mark, we hear gunshots. Billy suggests it may have been a pteranodon, but Grant says no, it sounds bigger. And as the minute ends, Amanda looks back at the group, unsure of what she's just done. As we open on this minute, we had Billy and Alan sort of looking at each other as we can hear Amanda's shouts over the bullhorn. And we can be heard from outside the plane, and we get another call out for Eric and then Ben. And Billy tells Grant that he thinks they're looking for someone.
No.
Yeah. But we do cut outside the plane. We see it parked on a dirt airstrip, and we get our first look at the Isla Sorna runway. Several gas tanks and debris laying around the ground. An old rotted windsock that's sort of prominent in the front of the picture. Mm-hmm. And on the right side, we get a small fuel shed and a larger building with a radio tower on the roof.
Yeah, I'm actually kind of surprised that windsock is still there, to be perfectly honest.
Well, especially after the cyclone.
Yeah. Well, you would think they would have been long gone by now, because, I mean, those are made out of, like, what, burlap?
Yeah, or a canvas, yeah.
In
the tropics. In the tropics, it would have got mouldy and damp pretty quick.
Yeah. Just fallen off a long time ago.
Yeah. But yeah, we get the larger building with the radio tower and that on the roof. Further down the runway, you can see a maintenance truck that's it's been abandoned, and there's a tree growing up through the middle of it. And back over on the left, you see a pretty large fuel and a water truck and an SUV parked in the foliage, which I sort of raised the question about what that could be, and you brought up possibly the Suburban that we've seen on the backlot for The Lost World.
Yeah.
Oh, for the lab scene, I mean.
Yeah.
But this airfield, it's tiny. The airstrip's part of Dillingham Airfield, which is a public and military use airport in the north shore of Oahu. It's operated by the Hawaii Department of Transportation and under lease from the United States Army. And it's used for skydiving as well. But it might be a familiar location you've seen before, but it was used fairly heavily in Lost. I think they stored most of the plane wreckage on there because it's right next to the beach. And it was used also in Fallen Kingdom, where they built the abandoned Main Street set.
Really?
Yeah.
I knew it was built on an airfield. I did not realize it was the one from here.
I assumed it was. Because it was the same, that the plane they use there for the skydiving is the same plane as they used to get Claire and Owen there. So I assume it was operating out of that airfield. Because the hunters camp that was set up, the roundup camp where they come in and Ted Levine out of their setup, that's off the side of the airstrip as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I always thought it was because it's proximity to the beach there and being private property, but that might not be the case. Probably should have looked a little bit harder into that, but
I don't know. I mean, it might be now that you're saying it. I have to look into that though. Come and brief us next week.
Yeah.
Or next episode.
Yeah.
No, next week. Yeah, next week. I'll get back to you next week.
One thing I found interesting too is when we're sitting here with this shot up the runway with the plane sitting there, the beacon lights on the tower. There's two small towers and a dish on top of the building there, and they're glowing red, which just goes to show how the longevity of Hammond's geothermal power if it's running off the same grid as the lab and or the worker village at least. Mm-hmm. Which kind of contradicts the geothermal power in the novel, where it's geothermal's incredibly corrosive and needs constant update, and even in the novel most of the power grid's down. It's just a few buildings that are still running on power. As Amanda continues to call out to Ben and Eric, we cut to the rear of the plane. Udesky is helping Cooper and Nash gear up with guns and walk away from the plane, and Grant and Billy emerge from the plane door, and Paul sees him and meets him by the plane's wing, and he's trying to apologise, but Grant's only after who hit him. saying who hit me. But and then behind Paul too, you can see the van and the water truck parked over amongst the jungle. Mm-hmm. Paul points to Cooper running off in the jungle and says, "Oh, that was Cooper." Which he should know, Cooper was the only one behind him on the plane. Like, there was no one else, unless Billy hit him from the side that he didn't know. But Alan asks, what are they doing? And Paul replies, they're setting up a perimeter to make the place safe, these guys. But Grant cuts him off by saying, Mr. Kirby, trust me, on this island there is no such place as safe, or no such thing as safe, which a 2-man or 3-man team's hardly enough to set up a perimeter around the airstrip, especially later where we see Cooper run out a few hundred metres further down the airstrip itself. Plus they all seem to run out and go in the same direction as well.
I think it's kind of funny that in the scene, when you look at the back of the plane, you can see that they must have came over the mountains to land there, and 2, there's power lines. Which, I mean, obviously the power lines make sense, seeing that there's still power to the airfield, but I think it's funny that, I mean, seriously?
Well, yeah, and that was something, especially when they go to take off and you get the shot of the plane coming back down the runway. You can clearly see the power lines in the background. I've always called it out as a bit of a goof. They didn't CG them out, but then there's a lot of fans that are saying, well, there'd be power lines going across the island to transfer power to different locations, but when you got, well, I suppose at the time they wouldn't have had big dinosaurs roaming around anyway, so it wouldn't have been a thought to them that the dinosaurs could knock the power lines over, but it'd be a good little shock for a Brachiosaurus and a Apatosaurus walking the power lines, but...
Or even, like a tree knocking them down. I'm surprised that hasn't happened yet, because in the first novel, trees knock out the power to, like, 3 separate fence points during the storm,
and,
you know?
Yeah, and that's just a tropical storm. So you haven't even got the winds that Hurricane Clarissa would have had, being a Category 4. But you do, when you go to that Dillingham Air Force Base or airfield and have a look, those power lines are there on the location. So I think it's just a matter of no one in the editing room noticed it, or it didn't get CG'd out, which is a shame because it sort of just adds that question now. But Alan's saying it's not safe and we have to get back in the plane. Meanwhile, Amanda's continuing to call out on the bullhorn, making a lot of noise. Mm-hmm. Grant continues, will you tell your wife to stop making that noise? That is a very bad idea. And Paul turns to face his wife and calls out to her. And we cut to Amanda, positioned by the jungle. She's still calling out for Ben and Eric. We can see Paul, Billy and Grant behind her at the plane. As Paul calls out to Amanda, honey, Dr. Grant says that's a bad idea. And she turns and yells through the bullhorn, what? And we get the back and forth. He says it's a bad idea, and what's a bad idea? And then we cue Roar. Which, I know a lot of people have got problems with the Kirbys and Amanda, but it's just that sort of, I'm not going to say dumb housewife, but just sort of that, these people have never been to the island before. One interesting thing before too, even earlier when we've seen Nash and Cooper with the big rifle, that's a long range weapon. How many open fields were they expecting to sit down and be able to shoot a dinosaur coming at them from hundreds of yards away? Like,
I never thought of that.
Yeah, I only just thought about it then. It's so you're in the tight jungle. It's the whole reason Muldoon had the Spaz 12, because it's a short range, hard hitting weapon.
Yeah.
When you're in the jungle, you want to be able to get a shot off down range and stop whatever's charging at you. Especially at carnival.